Hello, everybody. It's your coach of the Toronto Staraptors, Zexion. We're coming at you with another Pokemon battle. This week we're facing the Munich Miltanks, coached by lorz. We're facing a Thundurus T, a Rotom Wash, Goodra, Snorlax, Registeel, Hitmontop, Sandslash, Mega Beedrill, Gothitelle, Entei, Tangela, and Aromatisse. So, coming into this battle, Thundurus T was a pretty big threat. Goodra was a threat. Snorlax was a threat, Beedrill, Gothitelle, Entei, and then his defensive stuff was just kind of there. I know in prep I noticed that he didn't have a dark type, so I figured, okay, let's just go Calm Mind Sword Power, just set up on like the Registeel or something, and I figured this would be my win con, right? I bring Refresh and Roost because I don't really need any extra coverage on this thing, and it would basically make his Registeel setup fodder for me. I brought my Fortress. The only thing stopping a Latios sweep was like Mega Beedrill, but Mega Beedrill was a solid answer because once something died, he would just bring it out and kill with U-turn because adaptability U-turn hits so hard. So I figured, okay, we can run Latios here, right? Set up, force out the Beedrill, and then just bring in Fortress and Rocky Helmet, chip it down till it dies, right? So I just ran fully defensive with like Stealth Rocks and stuff just to try and chip it down. Entei was sort of a threat, so I brought Suicune, right? Fully physically defensive with Calm Mind, Rest, and Sleep Talk, and Scald. We brought Scarf Terrakion because that did over 50% to everything. I ended up replacing X Scissor with Sacred Sword if the Snorlax was fizz def with Curse. I brought Serena, which was a questionable bring. It was mostly just to tank like Thundurus hits, maybe Goodra hits, but I wasn't really prepping too hard for Goodra. And it was also there to eat Rotom hits, but you know. So we brought that, and it gave us U-turn coverage. Like we had U-turn on it, just so that if he brought the Gothitelle and he tried to trap my Fortress, I could just keep volt switching U-turning back and forth between Serena and Fortress. On Moltres, we brought fully physically defensive so that we could catch the Beedrill if our Fortress died, get maybe a burn, right? So, what was I gonna say? Completely forgot. Yeah, that was pretty much all of our prep there. It wasn't too hard because I was feeling kind of confident after mocks, but you know, the way the battle went, wasn't very fun. So I ended up leading Fortress here because I predicted a Beedrill lead or a Registeel lead. Both leads basically let me get up rocks, but he ended up leading Rotom Wash. Rotom Wash would deal huge chunks of damage to Fortress because, you know, Fortress has no special defensive bulk at all. So I just decided, okay, we'll switch to Latios here. In mocks, Latios was my dedicated switch to Rotom because it was basically setup fodder unless it had like HP Ice, but it didn't predict that, right? He ends up going for his Hidden Power, which was Hidden Power Fire, and then he swaps here, right, into his Registeel, which at the time I thought was perfect, right? It was perfect, based on my game plan. So I just decided, okay, we'll just straight up set up Calm Minds, right? And on my calc, I had a specially defensive Registeel. It actually ended up being defensive. So we get to +3, he Toxics me and starts Iron Heading. I decide, okay, let me try and get back up to full, right? So I refresh Roost here, you know, just get myself up to full. And here I should have stored power because I was at +3 and it was doing over 50% even if it was specially defensive. So I could have gotten chip here. But instead, I decided to Calm Mind again, which was actually really dumb. If I had stored power, it would have made a huge difference, but you know, it's workable. So at this point, I'm like, okay, we do not want to sack our Latios, right? Even though it's max HP, adaptability Beedrill hits too hard, so I just went into my Fortress. Get that Rocky Helmet chip, you know, it's going according to plan so far. Brings out his Goodra, which I was really scared of because I didn't prep too hard for it. I was like, I thought it could have been Spexed or AV, right? He thunders, which was scary, right? And at this point, I was wishing I had Ice Beam just so I could Ice Beam, but instead I just go Calm Mind to try and take a Thunder if he does it again, right? He brings out his Registeel, so I bring out my Latios. It was kind of dumb because he just opened up it opened up the Goodra swap, so it was a good play off of him. So he goes into Goodra. I go into Serena expecting another Thunder, but instead he Ice Beams. That does a huge chunk to Serena, but this reveals to me that he isn't Specs and he's actually AV. And I decide, okay, you know what? He might go for some more damage, so I Toxic. Goes into Registeel, and I just decide, okay, let's just U-turn. Right? If he swaps making a play, then, you know, I can catch him on that. If he doesn't, then I can just bring in Latios. So I do that. I go into Latios. He gets his rocks up, and I decide, okay, let's get Roost. Let's Roost. Get to full health. Right? I refresh, and then he Iron Heads here. So I Roost again, and he, I think, Toxics here, yeah. So it's kind of repetitive at this point. And then here I set up a Calm Mind, and he brings out his Goodra, which is pretty smart off of him again. We know he's AV at this point, so he can take a +1 stored power. Or, yeah, +1 with like 60 power or whatever. So I just decide, okay, let's bring out our Serena again. This thing's sackable, right? But he goes for Dragon Tail and brings out my Suicune, right? Gets some solid chip on everything. So I just decide, okay, we'll try and get some chip. So I go for Scald. He Thunders here, gets huge damage onto Suicune. And at this point, I just go Serena. I'm fully ready to sack it. And here I'm like, okay, Serena outspeeds this thing. Let's just knock off, get an item off of something. I get the item off of Registeel. And then I think I just click U-turn here. Just wanting to get some momentum. So I go into Fortress here, right? Now he gets a free U-turn, right? And I'm going to get my rocks up. But here, he brings out his Thunder's T, which was a great play off of him, right? And before the match, I changed Gyro Ball on Fortress to Rock Slide, but it didn't stay, and that kind of sucked a little bit. So here I was predicting him to go for the Agility or an attack, right? So I just go into Serena going for the sack. He goes for the Agility, which I was terrified of, and that ends up paying off for him because everything on my team takes heaps of damage from Thunderbolt. So I go into Serena, he does that, right? Then I go into Terrakion, right? Because the Thunderbolt doesn't kill, right? If it's max speed. But here he lives on 10 because he has max HP. And then he just Gigavolt Havocs, takes out my Terrakion. Terrakion was actually my win con here, right? It wasn't Latios. Because looking back at it, Terrakion did more than 50%. What I should have done here, right, which you'll see later, I bring out my Latios. I'm like, okay, Latios can live anything, right? So I bring out my Latios, Heat, Hidden Power, Ices. What I should have done, and what I didn't do, right, is bring out my Latios, and then just like stored powered it, right? Get the 10%, get the chip, because Latios was expendable, then go into Terrakion, right? I don't know. That was kind of the play, but he could have just set up a nasty plot and then I would have lost, I think. Or he could have set up another Agility and I would have lost. So he brings out his Rotom, and at this point I was like, okay, I lose to Rotom if it's Scarfed. He ends up being Scarfed. It was a GG. Really badly played off of me, to be perfectly honest. I should have brought Clef. And I should have preserved Terrakion more. Like, not preserved, but I should have brought Terrakion in a lot more. Because in looking at it, close combat did 50% to everything. And after rocks, it broke early game. As Sky said to me later. It broke early game, and then it cleaned late game. Like, I don't know. I was too tunnel visioned on my Latios. and trying to get another Calm Mind sword powered sweep, but instead I should have been focusing on my Terrakion and just trying to get chip on everything so that I could clean with close combat or whatever I clicked. Badly played off of me. It happens. Off day, I guess. We'll just bounce back for next week. You know, we'll do better next week. All right. Granted, we do have Dark, I think, but winnable. Winnable, I hope. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.